We starting off ridiculous.
Have you? Should we start over? I know
No,
that was for George.
that's
George
good.
thought he was the only one that knew that word. He probably is.
It makes it sound so serious, you know. So,
Oh, it is. It's a
so
council.
powerful. Yeah, it's a council.
It's austere. We have so much gravity in
The
that.
triumvirate.
Okay, so today we are starting with three. We have a friend that I just have introduced to George, and his name is Tom Gang, Pastor Tom Gang, pastors First Baptist Church of Jackson Township over in Akron, Canton, Massillon, right in the center.
Yes, right in the center of that triangle. Those were the Akron Baptist Temple, Massillon Baptist Temple, Canton Baptist Temple at one time. They were in the top 10 largest attendance Sunday school, if you ever read that Baptist material, on planet Earth, and we're right in the center of that. So
and you've been poaching their members ever since you started.
their members.
Well, oh man!
Well, let's just say that the ground was very fertile, and
Yeah.
the gospel had been sown in that area for a very long time. So it's actually a very good field to work in, and a lot of fruit there.
Yeah.
Amen.
It is. We take that for granted. We were talking to a missionary over in a closed country over in the Far East, and he was talking in our missions conference last night, and he said, you know, all these pictures that you see, what do you see? You don't see steeples. There's no steeples. They're all Hindu temples. They're all
spires. And,
it's sad, but we take that for granted here in this area. I mean, in the U.S. particularly, we were founded by people who were toting a Bible with them, and it's amazing what the Lord. And it's not been perfect, but there's a difference.
Yeah, the generations that have gone before us matter, else we wouldn't be here. Let's face it.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to have Brother Tom, Pastor Dr. Reverend Gang.
Hi, Doctor.
The High Doctor.
Hi, Doctor.
That used to mean something else before you were saved, but no, I wanted to bring him on.
Yes, it did. Yeah, I grew up with the hippies.
Oh yeah.
So high doctors. There were a lot of them.
You were kind of a blue collar, rough and tumble guy, weren't you?
Well, it's the neighborhood I came from.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to bring him on because he's a friend of mine, and of course, George and I, we like to interview different people here and there, and sometimes there's really not as much connectivity. Independent Fundamental Baptists can be very campish, you know.
No.
Oh, really?
You don't say.
I think so.
Well, I don't want to. I mean, I don't know if this is the place to break it to you, but yeah, there are different camps, and people do kind of line up according to their camp, and so we try.
Some people are camped way outside.
Oh, they're out
too.
out without the camp, so to speak.
That's you just gave them a verse. You just gave them a verse. Don't do that.
They don't need a verse.
I can't
They've
even
been
say the word that he started
operating
with.
for years without a verse. Oh my soul. Anyhow, so the cool thing is this. I was thinking about, okay, what's the difference between George and Tom? And they both have a love for the King James Bible, and they both understand the concept of right division in Scripture, and they both desire to see people saved, and they both started a church with the help of the Lord and God's people on their own. They're both founding pastors. One is 10 years, celebrating 10-year anniversary, Hope Baptist Church of Montreal. Congratulations. What a great accomplishment. You're more like 25?
No, we just celebrated our 26th anniversary.
26.
Nice.
Praise the
Amen.
Lord. And I would say a lot of very similar things, but also some dissimilarities. And I wanted to get into it, talk a little bit about, philosophy. I could talk about background, and we couldn't all that, but at some point it's less important. It kind of comes with as you go, you explain. But one of the things I was thinking about is the distinction between and planning churches. I wanted to talk about what it looks like to see somebody come into the church, into your church where God has you pastoring, and what the process is, a little bit of how God has worked in those lives and how he's integrated them into the body And so I guess I would say 90 days. Let's say it this way: what does it look like for a new believer's first 90 days in your church? Now, it could be a little bit more, a little less, whatever, but that concept of the first initial connecting with Christ and with the body. And does that question make sense?
No, not at all.
George, he knows.
Could you ask me a more complex question? No, really, I can answer that. It's only complex because people are different, and so it's going to unfold in a different way depending on how engaged somebody is, how much time, how serious they are, what's their background. So you're saying somebody that comes to our church, they're invited and they're a new believer.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to make that parameter pretty tight so I can give you an answer.
Well, let's say, I said new believer. Let's stick with that.
Okay.
So we can talk about evangelism after that. And I want to hear from Tom, from you, and then George, from you as well, to look at the distinctions, similarities, what things. Yeah. So I don't know if you would call that an area where it's a hard area, but let's say that they're saved, okay, and then they're coming and they're locking into the church.
Okay, so who are we dealing with?
This is a new believer.
A brand new believer.
Yep, brand new believer.
So I'm going to assume that they were, as the example that George gave earlier before the podcast started, with the young man bringing in somebody that's very excited in our church is going to bring in somebody. Mm-hmm. And these things happen all the time. And they sit under the preaching and teaching the Bible, which most people have never heard before. And of course, it's inspiring to them. They're excited. They make a profession of faith in Christ, whether it's during a service or generally these things happen in private with the person that brought them to church, mm-hmm. because they're a discipler typically, and they would know how to lead someone to faith in Christ. And so ideally what we would want to happen is that person to be able to then begin to disciple them one-on-one because they already have a connection with them. Mm-hmm. And so that would play out that way immediately. And, through the course of their relationship and discipling, then they would begin getting plugged into our local church. So that would just be one example and an easy kind of a quick response, mm-hmm. of how that they would be integrated in with us. And then we have, of course, important other ministries in our local church, like a college and career age ministry. We call it young adults. And then we're working on older singles. So it depends. Let's say in this example, this is somebody young. And so then they would be invited to go to our singles meetings. They meet on Tuesday nights at a location away from our church. And then they're meeting other singles and slowly being integrated into the culture of our church and with other Christians. Mm. When somebody newly gets saved, they need new friends and need to know that people are like them, that Christians aren't some Christians are odd.
Yeah.
But they need to know that
we don't want them to know that.
They need to know that we're like them and that we have similarities, and kind of breaks down some barriers. We want to see them come at least on a Sunday morning on a regular basis. That would be one of the goals in discipleship, and that would be ultimately established. And of course, they would fall deeply in love with the pulpit preacher, of course.
Oh, there's no doubt. How could you not? So that's a really good. So in other words, I'm hearing someone comes and they're connected already with a person who is on purpose. They're thinking about the purpose and the direction and it's spiritual growth.
Yes, they're not looking at them as a notch on their, in their Bible, or, let's get them to pray a prayer. They're really looking, when our people are out there, looking for people that are receptive. There's certain things that only God does. And when you see those kind of things happening, then you'll respond to that and pursue that person because you have a burden for their soul, not because you want them to pray a prayer and you can say, now, we want 131 people to Christ this year. So they have a heart for the people. and they want them either to be discipled or to disciple them themselves. If they're already discipling someone, very difficult for them to take on another person. It's really, we don't recommend someone discipling two people at one time. There are some exceptions, but making then a connection with someone else is important, and that's why we have ancillary ministries, like in this one example with young adults, so they can meet others, and then someone else, they make a connection, and then another, if it's a young man, then he makes a connection with another young man, and that person would then disciple them. And the person that invited them is looking for someone that could do that. But again, it's not based, it's natural. It happens naturally. It's not some kind of forced program that anybody's in. We can't do that. That's why I said to answer you is somewhat complicated.
Well, I think, and George, I'll let you jump in here and comment, a question, whatever. But I think that the one thing I see in my perspective, of my viewpoint, I see, and I guess I should say my experience, there seems to be two extremes. One extreme is, oh, well, it's just a matter of getting the right ministries and programs together and having the right schedule. That's one extreme. And the other extreme is, I don't know, we can't do it. The Holy Spirit does it. He does the work. There's nothing we can do. And I think both of those extremes are wrong, because the difference I'm hearing with what you're doing is that it is expected that when a person comes around, that we are going to endeavor to help them move in a direction towards the Lord.
I think I can sum it up this way, and I think it's be easier to understand. We're in the business of adding people, evangelizing them, soul winning, for the express purpose of connecting them with someone who will personally care for them. That's really what this is all about. And in that relationship, they're going in a personal one-on-one relationship. Now they can talk to them. Now we can talk about issues of life with the Bible open in between us, and teach that person what their real purpose in life is, and that is to bring glory to the Lord Jesus Christ in their thoughts and actions.
If I can ask a question here, Pastor Tom, what do you do when the person who will lead the other to the Lord is themselves a brand new disciple? And like they're friends, so he just led his friend to the Lord.
Yeah.
But the soul winner himself is a brand new Christian, still learning how to walk with the Lord. You bring in someone else from the outside and say, we're going to connect. Like, are you connecting his friend with someone else in the church who will mentor them?
Well, again, this is a hypothetical, so it's I'm when you guys are asking me these
well,
questions,
in his case, he has that situation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if that were taking place in our ministry, the process would be a little slower, depending on how willing the brand new convert is. Not the person who invited them, but the person that just got saved. Depending on how open they were, that's where those other ministries come in. The ministries in our church support everything we do in our church, with few exceptions, support us connecting people together with other people. So there will be other people that can disciple that person, but how willing would that person be to have essentially a stranger disciple them? And so there's a time,
especially when they have that connection with their friend.
Yeah. So that would be a process, but it does happen naturally and fairly smooth.
Do you have I think, George, what you're asking is a formal discipleship relationship would take some time, and it wouldn't be like, oh, chain. Now we got, people who just got saved, discipling people who just got saved. You'd have to start with, okay, person A, the guy that's already saved, who brought a friend to church. We're going to start. How do you deal with him, and what time frame? Again, he hasn't been saved. How long has he been saved?
We want to get people connected as soon as. Are you talking?
I'm talking to George.
Well, so the gentleman, the young man who's been saved, he's been coming. I think he's been saved for a few months. Let's say a year. Okay, and He invited his friend. His friend came a couple of times to the church. I think the second or third time he got saved 2 Sundays ago. And so now, so A is the new soul winner. B is the friend that he just led to the Lord.
Yeah.
And of course they're close because they're friends, right? So do you take B, and you're not going to disconnect him from A? That's his friend.
No.
But is there a process that you connect B with C because C is more mature than A is?
Absolutely. And that happens through friendship connections. It happens through, it might even just start with them. He's going to give his testimony. The person that invited him is going to say, look, I got saved and I'm being discipled, and here's what this is all about. And so would you consider this? It's all voluntary. We don't force anybody to do this. We're not a cult. So, why don't we have coffee? Why don't we meet at the Starbucks and we'll have coffee? And I'm going to ask, you at the singles meeting, you saw Joel, and Joel's going to show up, and he's a discipler. Would you be interested in that? And that's generally how these things take place. And then they get connected, and really we find new believers are almost always very receptive to do that. I mean, if they're genuine converts, they're almost always, there's exceptions, but they're almost always ready to go immediately. We really don't have that many problems, no matter what age they are, what their lot in life is, whether it's a woman who's been, has grown children and gets saved in our ministry. They're usually very excited to be connected with someone, and they kind of look at it as a Bible study. They might not understand everything about it, but that connection takes place, and it usually lasts a year to 18 months. Can last longer if a person's troubled or has a lot of issues to deal with in life. But it's usually a weekly relationship that lasts 12 to 18 months. And by the time they're finished, they're ready to go, and they have an understanding of these things, and may even, as you gave the example, may even have led someone to Christ. And you could add another person and another level to this same example that you just gave. It actually happens in our church.
Can I ask another question here? Because just to kind of draw on your experience, have you ever faced a situation? Some people have it on their heart, and out of the goodness of their heart, no ill intentions at all. But some people have this kind of drive to when someone new comes into the church, they'll take him under their wing,
Yeah.
And they'll invite them and they'll spend time together. Sometimes, now in certain cases where the people who are doing this, if they've got another agenda, it kind of becomes like a church within a church, and then there's some misgiving there. Now, but if their heart is good and pure, that's usually not a problem. But have you seen it happen where the people who are being mentored at some point feel like they need their space, and like that, okay, like now you're getting a little bit too much into my personal affairs, and you're micromanaging my life,
No, it really doesn't happen in our environment, but I understand what you're asking, and it is a concern, along with many others that pastors have, and that's a common question that I get. But it really doesn't unfold that way at all. I've got 472 people involved in one-on-one discipleship, most of them meeting once a week. I mean, we have a church of a little bit over 700 people. We multiply churches. We've sent out churches from our church. We're in the multiplying business. Everything that we do, that is the center of everything that we do. And so in our church and in our ministry, it doesn't unfold that way. There's always, we have the same problems any other church has. It's just less of those problems because the people are very mature and they understand what their mission is. And my preaching and everything, on Sunday mornings when I'm preaching, I'm not getting off track. I'll come back around. When I'm preaching on Sunday morning, I'm preaching to disciple makers and multipliers. That's my audience. I preach the gospel and give an invitation in every message and every Sunday, but we have evangelistic Sundays but I'm preaching to our church. So
Yeah,
they
same.
go out and do the work.
Same.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't know if I answered your question or not, but we just
well, that brings up an interesting point for me, because I think that all churches, I shouldn't say all churches, but many churches start out mission minded, get the gospel out. You have to, because you have to have people, right? Yeah. And so you're focused on that. And the goal, and sometimes the gold in our minds is, oh, good, you see that family came in and he was dressed up and she was dressed up and all their kids were there in a line, and what an awesome thing. And it's like, we'd prefer to have that, because that represents stability and buy-in and unity and maturity. And then, well, look at this guy over here. He looks like he just slept under a bridge, or he looks like does the furthest thing from a church guy. What happens over time is we go from mission to getting up a kind of a collection, or what's the word? A highest ratio. What's the word I'm looking for? A quorum of people who know the drill, who are well behaved, and all of that. And then it almost becomes like we want to maintain that. And I think a lot of denominations, they grow by multiplication, not by multiplication, but by biology. They grow by having children, and then their children have children, and they marry somebody, and then they have children. And so before you know it, now you're really focused more on keeping believers, in some cases who are immature, happy, as opposed to empowering them, and not just training them while we're here. And then guys going out, and people begin to look at the church almost as like, what can you offer me? Our preacher, he gives me something interesting. I like going there because they scratch an itch, rather than he perfects the saints for the work of the ministry. Those seem to be two camps, generally speaking, that I've seen.
Yeah. When we have, and I want to be careful how I say this, but typically when we have the description that you used, dressed nicely, got the kids lined up, and they all come in, they'll be there one Sunday. They won't come back.
Why is that?
Because there's something different. They see there's something different here, and we're not generally, we started our church doing this, discipling. And so I think if you're looking, I think that type of person that you described, they're looking for a typical Baptist church, and we're not that. And so they'll come once, maybe twice, and we follow up on them, but it's not
What's the
me.
difference?
It's not me following up on them. I don't know.
What are they seeing that's so different?
Maybe responsibility.
I think I could answer the question. We're on a podcast, and I'm in my mind, I'm going, I've never done this before, and I'm trying to figure out what not to say.
Yeah. The pastor in you is like, I need disclaimers over here, and I need discretion.
Yeah, you're anybody watching, they won't tune back in again if I really explain all of this.
Well, let's I hear what you're saying. I have a penchant for saying the thing that needs to be said, and then we can negotiate back to sanity, or back to comfort. But I just think, unfortunately, I think people look at church as what can the church do for me?
Yeah, those people generally don't last at our church. We're not mean to them. We treat them like everybody else. We want them to be part. I think everybody should be part of our local church. Don't you, George? Think everybody should be part of your local church? Of course. John, don't you feel that way?
I think they should be part of our church, not necessarily yours.
Well, that would be difficult if they live in my area or they live in your area, right?
Yes. I see what you're saying.
Yes,
I agree.
Yes. So with that being said, you have a dynamic that unfolds where people can quickly figure out that this isn't what they're looking for. Maybe, by the way, everybody, we've got a conglomeration of people in different cultures within cultures that are in our church. And I'm not necessarily talking about, ethnicity as much as I'm talking about, I mean, I'm a downtown guy. I mean, my wife was my girlfriend when she was 14. I was 15. We're from the hood. And so, we're not, I mean, you can take the boy out of the hood, but the hood doesn't come out of the boy real easy, And so I'm not, like maybe what they're looking for. I don't have, I'm looking at George, and George looks like me, but much handsomer and younger. So
yeah, right.
But there's a model when Christians come to church. It's like a resume. They're looking for certain things, certain types of music, certain types of people around them. We had a lady visit from Chicago on Easter Sunday, and she's going to be moving into this area. She's the mother of a very faithful member of our church. And I saw her, she had her phone, and she was videotaping it like with her jaw open during the greeting. The greeting lasts nearly 10 minutes because it's like herding cats. I can't get them to stop. And the room is packed, and I'm not boasting. I'm just telling you the truth.
That's actually my favorite part of the service. Yeah. People are going around shaking hands.
Yeah.
I just sit back and I watch it.
And they won't listen to, sometimes the other pastor gets up to try to herd them, and he's not as good of a herder as I am.
He's not from the hood.
He's not from the hood. But afterwards, when I went up to talk to her, I said, I saw you videotaping. What's up with that? And she said, well, at our church, we're very conservative. And which I immediately thought, well, we're very conservative.
Socially, yeah.
But what she meant was they're quiet. They're not engaged. You might have somebody sitting in this corner of the building or the room, and somebody on this side of the room, and they know each other to see each other. They've been going to church together for 10 years, but they don't know each other. Well, because of our culture in our church of one-on-one and relational things, it spills off. It's not a program. It spills off into so many other areas that even in a greeting scenario, people are connecting with each other and glad to see each other. And it's amazing for somebody to come in, and yet uncomfortable for some people to come into that kind of an environment.
Well, if you look at the church as think about it. When you go to Walmart, you're there primarily to get a product. And it used to be that Walmart employees were really friendly and helpful and all that.
Used to be.
Yeah. I mean, they're not anymore. Now it's all about the dollar, but, hire whoever and train them however and get them in there. But people are coming for the product. When people come to church, if they're looking for the product, which is someone opening the Bible or, singing a song, if it's the ritual, then you can get that a lot of different ways.
That's a good way to explain. Well, that's what
let me ask a question here too. Then, I've when it comes specifically to families with children, I almost understand it a little bit more that they're looking for a product because of the kids. Yeah. I've heard people say, we're in this church, we drive an extra hour to be in that church. Mm-hmm. We've got churches near us that are better suited for us with our kids, but we believe the Lord would have us in that church because we want to be a blessing to like the pastor and his family, and we think we want to help the work of God there. Very rare are the families that have that kind of mindset, which it's almost like a local evangelistic mindset where I'm going to go and I'm going to support that church, even though it's not ideal for my kids. And I know that's the more spiritual thing, but for families that have young kids, especially, or growing kids and they're teenagers and they're worried that they're going to lose them to the world, and they see a church where there isn't really a framework to integrate their, let's say, young adolescents, versus a church that does have that framework. I know in each case people have to pray to follow the will of God, but abstracting that, I kind of understand now that I have young kids of my own. That kind of shopping experience for a place because I want to protect my kids.
Yeah, it's normal.
Well, and I would say from this standpoint, if we're talking about there is nothing for the kids, I can see that. But in your case, of course, there's classes coming out your ears and all kinds of activities. I'm talking about not can this church minister to our entire family or to the specific age groups? I'm talking about mindset of a product is I'm coming, it's a transactional relationship, right? You're going, I come, if I join, I'll pay and I get this, period. That's all I'm looking for. Like, I'm going to the 7-Eleven. I'm not looking to build a relationship, so to speak. I'm just buying a soda and I'm leaving. I paid, you gave it to me. You made it available to me. Mm-hmm. I paid for it and I left. And I'm thinking, if a person is used to that kind of a thing, then it really does come down to, what do I get out of it? What's because there's 10 churches in a mile radius.
Right.
So, you guys, where you guys are.
Right. Right.
The same with us.
Where we are, it's much less, but maybe we have to address that mindset in the preaching.
Well, but your point is well made. I mean, people, they have a responsibility to their family and to their children. And it's a great point. You know, when we first started our church, we didn't have those kind of bells and whistles. And we lost a lot of guests that came because we didn't have the ability to minister to their kids like a church that was larger, that was more established, that had vacation Bible schools and kids clubs and, you know, I don't know, Awanas or whatever things that people do. Now we're a much more established church and we have all kinds of ministries like that. And so we become that attraction to the description you just made.
It took a core at the beginning of people who were willing to sacrifice, who didn't have that mindset that Brother John's talking about, right? That, you know, we're here to like serve.
Yeah.
And we're going to trust the Lord. He's going to minister to our children, to our family in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where I was. I mean, I had a teenage daughter, 9th grader, when we moved out of our home church and moved 30 miles north.
Wow.
And she was the only person in our youth group.
So wow, that's very, especially the teenage years. Those are the most
very formidable years
for, especially changes. They have a hard time handling changes.
Yeah. So what was she doing? Serving.
Right.
So she was serving with children, and we were talking. And so we elected, okay, I'm going to say a bad word now here. We elected to send her to public school for the express purpose of her meeting lost people. She'd gone to Christian school. It was part of my salary package, as it were, at the big Baptist church, my sending church. And so she was in a public school, and she ended up growing our youth group one person at a time by leading her friend to the Lord. And she just was visiting her friend actually last month out, and she had ended up getting married and moved to Arizona, but they're still close friends. And so it built from there. So, you know, and I don't mean this in any weird way, but I mean, you got 2 nice looking girls. And so they weren't evangelistic dating or anything weird like that, but it was easy for them to invite boys to come to church.
The Lord uses those.
The Lord uses that, and my daughter and her friend are very attractive.
Came here for the girl. I stayed here for God.
You know what? It happens. It happens all the time. We're all for whatever it takes not to go too far, and so we built that up. But they were serving, and I would say that with the starting as disciplers, we weren't concerned as much about how big our group was, but how deep our group was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I knew that if we had a core of 20 people that were disciple makers that understood multiplication, that it will just take off from there.
Go ahead, George.
I was just gonna. So how do you do that? Like you're intentional about it in the preaching and the teaching.
Well, and that's, I think my question. My question would fit here. Okay, so there's a lot of people who want to go deep, but they don't want to multiply. In other words, you can sit around and you know gaze. You can do some navel gazing, and really not get anywhere. But like, wow, I never heard that. Man, that's cool. And they're always looking for teachers having itching ears. Just always going deeper, and particularly Bible believers can fall into this trap because we believe the words we have are the words that God intended for us to have, these words, and there's a lot of connections and there's a lot of cool things to see, but when you started your first service as a church was on the very campus of the sending church.
Yes.
You met in an outbuilding in a barn type.
Yes.
But so what made it possible for you to multiply?
Well, I think we're defining in this conversation with what you just said, the word deep differently. I'm not talking about a deep dive in
theology,
the theological issues or preservation issues, or wow, that is so amazing looking at this Old Testament picture of Passover. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking people that are deep in understanding that what their mission and purpose is. That's what I'm talking about. And I came from a sending church that taught us those things. I left with a group of people. They happened to be the majority of the people that I led to the Lord, or the people I led to the Lord from Canton, Ohio, because this was 30 miles, and they were driving from Canton, Ohio down to New Philadelphia, Ohio. And so I started with a core group of people that were essentially, many of them, new believers, not all, but new believers that were in the process of being discipled by members of the First Baptist Church of New Philadelphia. So that came to a conclusion. Some carried over when we moved up. They weren't finished up yet, but that's how that happened. We were disciple makers. And so when I say deep, I'm not talking about theology, talking about really deep in understanding their mission to reach people, to actually win souls, not to get somebody to pray a prayer, to win people to Christ, or find Christians that were, that had sunken faces and bulging eyes and bloated bellies and spindly legs. Christians are emaciated everywhere, aren't they, guys?
Mm-hmm.
And so those are people we're looking for too.
Yeah.
And we find them.
You guys, I had a passage I'm preaching on Sunday. We've got the big revival coming up with Brother Gipp and DeMichael on Wednesday, and Brother Pastor DeMichael. And you just gave me an outline as you guys were talking. It's just everything fell in place.
We wondered what happened to you, George. You checked out.
That was great. Keep talking, guys. Keep talking. That was great. That's so cool. I'm excited now.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason why I mentioned this is because from my vantage point, there is, in my perspective and how I was raised, I see churches that have been program oriented, and if you build it, they will come, and you add in this ministry, that ministry, and then people come to expect it. Almost a consumer's mindset, like, what do you have for me? And people do need things, like you said. They do need help.
Of course,
they need food. They need attention. They need comfort. They need strengthening.
They need a local church and a body.
Mm-hmm. But what that means, if it means go to a building on a weekly basis and sit in a pew for X amount of time,
the frozen chosen.
Yeah. Well, a church is something you are, not somewhere you go. I mean, if this building, beautiful building, if it burnt to the ground, the Hope Baptist
please
Church
don't say
still
that
exists.
kind of stuff next to John. He's had one. That's enough.
What's that?
Too soon.
Oh,
too soon. Well, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It was a joke.
Okay. Look, my brain, I have to say things so I won't forget them.
Okay.
So
I interrupted you.
So it's all right. But no, I mean,
if it burned to the ground,
if it burnt to the ground, the Hope Baptist Church still exists.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Amen.
The structure isn't the Hope Baptist Church. People that are coming and looking for a structure are the very people that need to be discipled.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we don't want to.
Right. They've self-selected in a sense, is what you're saying.
It's like evangelizing or witnessing. So. Like what we do street preaching a little bit differently. We'll put somebody on a box in the middle of very crowded area, like a fair midway, not at a fair because they won't let us do that there, but there are activities and places where we can do that. And we know that people aren't really that interested and they think he's mentally ill. Are you guys tracking with me on that? Okay. But that's not the goal. The goal is the 12 people that are mixed into the crowd surrounding him, where we're fitting in with everybody. Like for me, I'll lean up against a mailbox or something, and I'm looking at people's faces, and I'm looking for them to have eye contact with me. And I'm maybe 20 feet away from the preacher. And I'll say, that guy's crazy, isn't he? And 9 out of 10 people will use foul language and say something nasty and keep walking. But there's that one guy that'll look at me and walk right over to me and say, yeah, he is. And I'll say, but you know what? You got to admit, he's got guts. Yeah. Now I'm engaged in a conversation. We're looking for receptive people. And almost every time, I tell you, it's so cool. And you guys experience this in your door-to-door and your evangelistic work. Don't you love it when you come upon somebody and they say, man, I've been thinking about these things.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about that. And then we get to say, well, God, I've been praying for you. I didn't know you, but I've been praying for you, and God sent me to you today. And we know for a fact that's true, don't we? Yeah. And so churches, I see our church, I'm making a comparison. I see our ministry, and I see a church as like that we're looking for receptive people that we can train, that we can teach, that we can get them to be like-minded with us, to join us to reach planet Earth. That's when I first started the church. Before we had our first meeting, I had a map of the county. I'm not trying to sound like a hero. I'm no hero. I'm some schmuck that got saved off of the street, and I'm just glad to be saved. But I wanted to ring the area with Baptist churches because I believed that multiplying was the key, that we were going to multiply. And I had lots of voices in my ear telling me, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And I just had to keep pushing away those things in order to stay focused. And in doing that, I was rejected by many of the Bible-believing churches that are in our area. Some of the people that have treated me the worst are the people that believe exactly the way I do about the King James Bible. It's just the truth. And I'm not
like,
mad
why
about
though? What's because of the methodology?
Yeah, because of the methodology. Because of maybe because of just things that we do that they don't do. Maybe because I'm not mad about it. I don't know. I mean, I could speculate and probably be very accurate, but that would be a waste of time today. The point is that when we're looking for folks that are just willing to join what we're doing, and it's okay if look, that's why there's lots of Baptist churches in an area. Our church isn't for everybody. We want it to be, but it's just not, and I'm not worried about it. It's okay.
I'm going to switch gears unless you have a question, George.
No, I was just going to just answer. I was just too excited to ask the questions, take advantage of Brother Tom being there, Pastor Tom. But you're asking what we do. I guess I was never really intentional about it because we were just so busy trying to set up a church, and but when I heard Brother John talk about those things, and went down to pastors' conferences, and I realized maybe I'm not intentional enough about it. And so that's good. You get challenged that way about making disciples, that is. Yeah. Then I heard Pastor Greer a couple of years ago saying we turned discipleship into a course. And that hit, and he was saying like the guys were traveling with Paul and things like this, and learning from his life example. And so one of the things I've tried to do is bring guys with me to pastors' conferences and things like this. So that's been good. I had never thought of doing that.
That's discipleship, George.
Right. By observing. I think one of the reasons, I'll get to what we do, but I think one of the reasons why churches may not be intentional about it because they think we're already doing this or get de facto. Like we haven't called it anything. We haven't maybe framed it. Maybe we can structure it a little bit more. But by the very fact that we have set up a church and we are winning souls and they're hearing the preaching, and maybe we have a discipleship course, we're kind of doing that. But it's always good to be a little bit more structured. So what happens with us is we're not that structured. We're only 10 years old, but we've been learning. So because we've had a crop recently of young people show up, I mean, it has to do with young people because they tend to be more like free electrons, but it's true. We should be catering to every group. But in this case, we restarted the discipleship course. But instead of it being just pure doctrine, we also do a Q&A at the end. So I'll teach a little bit, and then we open up the Q&A. We've got like donuts and coffee. And a lot of times the questions may not necessarily be theological. It gets to something that's practical a little bit. And in that atmosphere on a Friday night, it's an informal setting. So it is more conducive to bonding rather than just Sunday morning where it's like, hi, bye, it's kind of quick. Friday is more relaxed.
Of course.
People let their hair down, right? So that's been good. But maybe casting the vision would be something I could do more to communicate to the people that, just arm yourselves with that mind that we are here to make disciples and see how you can form bonds with people to help them grow in the faith.
Yeah. I would see what you've just described as a way to add people, because that's a great growing environment that you just described.
We get more guests on Fridays than on Sundays sometimes.
Yes. And so we have those things. And those are the things that we use that bring people in, that we add people, George. And then now, and think of how relational that environment is and how comfortable that environment is. It's very non-threatening, isn't it?
Yeah, we love it.
Okay, so then take that to the next level then. Now take that to one-on-one. That's very relational. That's what this is. This isn't they study the Bible, of course, but it's a relationship. And so I would look at what you're doing there as an avenue to make disciples one-on-one through that particular ministry that you have in your church. So that would be a very key ministry. If you have more people showing up to that, you're adding. Now you need to connect those people to disciple makers. And now you would see huge amounts of growth in your ministry, not quickly, but that would be a key place that you would want to focus on.
How would you graduate a disciple maker? How would you label? How would you identify? How would you kind of
qualify?
Yeah.
Train.
Well, our system is, it's a system, it's a methodology. It exists. So at the end of it, they're already been trained. They've spent 4 or 5 months at least on training them to be a disciple maker. It's part of when they're finished being discipled, they don't have to go into a class. I don't have to train them. I don't do anything. It's a ministry of trust.
Do you have tools that you use?
Yeah, we have a workbook that we use. A Journey is the materials we use. And in Journey, it has modules in the last 5 lessons. There's 10 lessons that when you're done with that lesson, let's say you're done with lesson 5, you're done with lesson 6, done with lesson 7, then there's a training module that the discipler takes the person through to train them how to make a disciple.
And so this is less on the theological side, that journey, and more on the practical side?
Yeah, and the theological side is very rudimentary. The theological side of their training comes from our pulpit and comes from our Sunday school classes.
Well, perfect. That sounds good.
Yeah,
I'm interested in seeing that.
Yeah, so what? But I would say, like when you said that to me, I'm all excited about that, because George, that is a fertile area for disciple making. Like if I were to come and I was a member of your church as an old, let's say I'm going to retire and I'm going to move to Canada. Move to Canada.
Wow. Just saying those words.
Not sure I'd be able to do that, George.
You'd be coming here for the weather, obviously.
I'm just joking. Yeah. Actually, George, I'm going to Canada in 3 weeks, to New Brunswick, Canada. Where are you located?
Well, west of that, but I've been in New Brunswick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be.
Maybe one day we'll have you come up here.
Beautiful there. So, but if I were there, I would be like, Pastor, and this is a great place. We need to get some folks that are trained as disciple makers in that environment, and then you can spin off other things as a result with the people and the guests that come, and that would be a huge key for me. When we started our church, we had Q&A times where we would meet. We turned our Sunday night into just a Q&A thing.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, people just showed up. We didn't sing. It wasn't a service. And we did it in people's homes back in the day because it wasn't even a Bible study. It was just, I was confident that I knew the Bible. But I would always qualify it by saying, look, this isn't stump the pastor game. Sure. I don't have all the answers, but I do have answers and I know where to get them. And it was one of the funnest times ever. And we added so many people through that. But more importantly, we added people that we were able to connect with people that were disciple makers in our church. Cool. And then their growth, boom. And now they're coming to Sunday services. You said they might not even come to Sunday. Well, they will if they're getting discipled through that ministry. Ultimately.
That's good. That's really good. I was going to say, if I were a young man,
if you were a young man.
If I were a young man,
George
moving to Canada, being a young man.
He has some gray there.
Yeah, starting year 2 a little bit.
Yes. If I were a young man, let's say I'm 20 years old and I'm excited about the Bible. I'm excited about. I learned the 7 mysteries, and I learned about
which 7?
The church. The 7 judgments and the 7 this, and are they 7?
And I learned about the Great Deep and the gap.
Oh, all right.
And I'm like, listen, I think God wants me to go into ministry.
Yeah,
I'm going to come to your church.
Yep.
Can you train me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can we get that done in 3 years?
Absolutely not.
Why? Well, why not? What?
Because you have to be disciple first.
What do you mean? I'm 20 years old.
I understand.
I read the Bible. I know the Bible.
Well, let me just say this to you. If you will just hear me out, we'll have to have a sit down. We need to talk because this question happens to me in the foyer after church, and they're usually cocky, which you are.
Well,
well, he's playing a young man. He's playing a young man.
I'm confident. I'm just going to say it in this way. You haven't met a guy like this. Okay.
Well, I have. I have. But okay, so how I typically handle that is the difference is ours takes a little bit more time, but it's connected with our local church. And we're going to make sure that when you leave here that you know exactly what to do and how to do it. And that's going to be a difference. Now, if you're on a fast track, it's not going to happen here. See, the local church is the greatest laboratory to train up pastors and missionaries better than any other place because your peers can see you. You can earn people's confidence and respect, and we can see you ministering to people and give you assignments and whatnot, and also train you theologically. But if you really want a degree and you want to put your application on monster.com to get a job as an associate and then work your way up, then this just isn't going to be the place for you and it isn't going to work. But we have something that's different to offer you. So we should probably sit down and talk.
I love how he's talking to you like he's talking like he's playing the part like you're really
he's in it. He's locked in.
Because I played this part over and over again.
Doing it so that could have been a movie scene, man. It's so unbelievable.
Yeah. And when that unfolds, guess what I'm thinking, John? When that unfolds, and it's unfolded many times.
I love it.
Yeah, this isn't He's not going to make it here.
I knew you were thinking that about me. I knew it.
Yeah, he's condescending.
It's because you're calcified.
Yes, I'm talking to you, John.
Exactly. Okay, so let's. Okay,
it happens more naturally, and
yes.
I'm nicer.
I'll move past the
This is what he'd like to be able to say. You know?
Yeah. I am in earnest. So I have to go. I go through discipleship.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then what else do you have for
me?
me?
While you're being discipled, in order to enter our Bible Institute, which is a 4-year Bible Institute, every year is someone's first year is another person's fourth year in our Bible Institute. It's not set up like a Bible college. We're a local church. We don't have that many students. And so in order to, there's no freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. There's not a progression in our Bible Institute. And so since every year is separate from itself, there has to be fundamental training. You have to learn how to biblical hermeneutics, or how to study the Bible. You have to learn church history from Revelation chapter 2 and 3. You have to learn about relationships between husband and a wife, dating, engagement, marriage. That's the foundation for biblical counseling.
This is in the Institute or before?
No. Just follow me, young man.
Okay, I'm trying.
The character qualities of a man or woman of God, and then walking with God. And those are all quarters. There's 5 quarters. So while you're being discipled, you will take these prerequisite classes. You can take those while you're being discipled, and you can complete all those classes during the 12 to 18 months that you're being discipled. Once you finish those courses, then September begins. And as long as you're in our church and you're participating and you're a member of our local church and you're serving somewhere, because we do, before you're entered into our Bible Institute, whoever the leader of the ministry where you're working has to also sign off on it that you've been faithful, then you can enter our Bible Institute. So you can be in our Bible Institute within, if you really wanted to be in a fast track, probably not the right attitude to have, young man.
Sorry.
but it could happen within 18 months to 2 years. And then you have 4 years of training.
Wow, that's intense. So when do I get to come on staff at the church?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. No. You asked.
That's good. That's very good. Now,
you asked.
So here's a question for you. Recently, a couple years ago, you sent out a church. Was it a couple years ago?
4 years ago. Well, we've sent out several churches, but recently we sent out a lot of people 6.9 miles away, 7 miles away.
And that was agreed upon by all parties?
Yeah, it's completely voluntary.
Wow, that's not too far.
And everyone
we had no choice. There was nowhere to sit and nowhere to park. And it was the greatest service that we ever had.
Wow.
I mean, I called everybody forward. We were bawling. I commissioned them right away because there are people. And this was my right-hand guy. He's actually very close friends with your brother. He sent a team out by invitation of your brother out to work out there and do some evangelism and such.
How many people went to plant this church?
Ultimately, 172.
Jack Woods used to do that.
Really?
Jack Woods did that. Yeah, when his church would grow, he would send off like 200 at a time. Yeah.
Well, that's our plan. That's always been our plan.
Wow. That's amazing.
And we were able to get to that point, but we had to lose a lot of people because if we lost 20 people, it wasn't going to give us enough seats and parking. 3.3 people park on the average in a church parking lot. So we needed to make some significant changes because when we did a study with our ushers, we found out that, we were losing 10, 12, 15 cars a Sunday driving through looking for a parking space and leaving.
Really?
Yeah. So what's beautiful about it is we have to do it.
Yeah, amen.
And now we're at a point now where we have to have an overflow room and there's 50 people in it, anywhere from 45 to 55 people every Sunday, and we're packed. And so we're going to send out another church this year, and it will be smaller. What we're trying, because that hurt us. I mean, we lost 42 children's workers. Ouch. That was a hit. And so we don't really want to send out that many again, but we might have to. So who knows? But we're looking at about 50 to 60 this year, twice, hopefully.
Again, if since we've got you on here, maybe ask something a little of a different focus. In the ministry, so I've been in the ministry 19 years as a pastor, about 11 years or so, and I get the challenges that come with ministry as a pastor. The thing I found the hardest that I'm struggling with is not, I get some level of persecution, judgment, slander, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Division sometimes. I'm not saying I'm cool with it, but these things, I have peace about those things. The one that I have a hard time with is people walking off into the sunset that you've loved dearly and that you've invested in. And sometimes with either for still a reason or for no reason at all, that you're still left scratching. It's almost like someone breaking up with you and you're left scratching your head and you never get a why. And some faithful people, good people. And just to be clear, we've had people that have left our church and they left with our blessing, and we love them, and there were very good reasons why they left.
Yeah.
And I think they were perfectly in the will of God. Until this day, we have great relationships. So I'm not one of those people who think that if you leave our church, you're automatically outside the will of God. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Okay. But I've had a number of times the church is doing great. Someone got saved, they're baptized, whatever, or a faithful Christian, and completely blindsided, step off the pulpit. And, Pastor, it's been great, but I'm leaving the church. And I'm in the position mentally where I am now is like, I fully expect that to happen any Sunday or any given meeting. It just happened again on Friday. Again, faithful people, not because they have anything against the pastor or against the church. It's just, whatever, we're leaving. And I don't know how much of that I can take, to be honest. Just part of me is like, well, what do? Do you disconnect emotionally? But then that could be dangerous for the pastor. If you're too invested emotionally, that could be dangerous too. And it's almost like I don't want to go there with okay, who's going to just come up to me out of the blue today and say they're walking off into the sunset? I don't know how to handle it. I generally don't know how to handle that.
Well, I 100% understand.
Especially that we're a smaller church, right? So every person is a big fraction.
Yeah, and I've been the pastor of a small church, of every size church, I'm going to say this, it's not that you're not going to like it, but it's not really going to help you that much today. But Jesus is a man of sorrow and acquainted with grief. And God has, our Father in heaven has these same people that betray him, that hurt him. And the Bible tells us that he has emotion and that he's grieved. And the Holy Spirit inside of us is also grieved. And so it is a part of our life, George and John, that we have to embrace, because we can't become apathetic. We can't. If we become apathetic, we're useless, then it's a job and we're a hireling. We really have to allow ourselves to be hurt and just let God bring us through it. We have no other choice if we're to finish our course. This world is cruel. I can take stuff like you said that's hard. People treat me poorly because I'm a Christian. But when believers lose their minds, is what I call it, and then there's collateral damage and they hurt other people, and I got the gut be gone feeling, and food tastes like metal in my mouth, and really what it is my heart is broken. But you know what? I break God's heart. I'm not involved in any evil sin or wickedness or anything like that. But in my heart and mind, I still deserve to go to hell, but I'm not gonna, because Jesus Christ loves me and died for me, and I've trusted in his shed blood. But I let God down. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but so do you, and so do you, John. And so how could we expect anything less? Jesus had 12 disciples, and one of them was a devil. And it's just our life. And so I have a friend that just says it this way, kind of boldly, and he says, just embrace the suck. It stinks. And just embrace it. It's part of our life. And you've come to that place. We call it in discipleship. It's that place of total consecration. George, you're already at that place. John, you are, where you're never going to go back. Are you? You going to give up on God and go back?
No, that's
what? No, I know, and I'm saying
it's
let it happen. If it happens, it happens. That's all.
I've heard guys, very respectable guys, like some people you might even know, that they basically said, I couldn't take that as a pastor, and that's why they're like a preacher, or that's why they pivoted in the ministry, because they couldn't. It's the just who's next kind of feeling just ate them up.
But we're pastors, and that's shepherds.
Yeah,
we're overseers of a flock. And flocks stink. I mean, flocks are pretty from afar off on a green hillside. But you get close to them, and me too. I'm one of them.
Yeah, the shepherd smells like the flock. Yeah.
Yeah, and
we're sheep ourselves.
Look, it's just the way it is. You know what? I go to, sometimes I'll go to churches and they'll do Q&As of the pastor. Like my wife and I'll be sitting on stage, and then the pastor and his wife will ask us questions about the ministry. And they always say, what's the worst thing, what's the worst problem you have? And I always tell them, well, I can't share the worst things that I have with you, because these are, but we all understand. Yeah. But we've got people watching us right now, and we're not going to talk about those things because people are difficult, but really the main thing that's my problem is every day I go home. Every single day when I go home, I know for a fact that if I would just call this person, or if I would just go make one more visit, or go and get a card and write one more note and mail it to this particular person right now, I know for a fact that it would make a genuine difference in their life and help them. And I can't. I have to stop at some point in time. It never ends. It never ends. And that's the bane of my existence. I hate it. And it breaks my heart. I actually have a broken heart over these things on a daily basis, but not boo-hoo. But it's just the way it is. And I just have to accept it and deal with it and know that I'm doing as much as I humanly can do. And I hate when I've invested in somebody. I've discipled somebody one time for 2 years and brought him through all kinds of stuff. And when we were finished, he didn't make any disciples. He just turned around and left. And he left with prejudice for no reason at all. And that still bothers me to this day. And now I got something else I got to deal with, and anger and all that. But you know what happens? All those things, what do? They draw me closer to Christ. Because I'm dealing with these emotions, and I don't want to be let down. I don't want to be hurt, but I can't be that way because I'm a shepherd. And so there's only one source of power I have, and that's intimacy with Jesus Christ. And so those very stinking, rotten things draw me. They're the very things that draw me closer to Jesus Christ. And so that's how you embrace those things. Because if you protect yourself from them, you're a hireling. That's what you'll become. And that's the stuff you were initiating these conversations about, John, where it's just not hireling per se, but it makes us very similar to like Methodists or Catholics or something, where we're not really much different than them.
Mm-hmm.
Baptists can be.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And don't you guys want to have, I just want to have a heart. I mean, so in order to do that, it's going to get broke and it's going to get hurt because it's got to be soft. And it's just the way it goes.
So you're saying that there is joy after sorrow?
In God's economy, there is, when you walk close with the Lord. And I'm not implying that you're not walking close with the Lord.
No,
I don't do this perfectly each time. It's a process sometimes. Sometimes sooner, sometimes later. But if I'm going to be an effective minister of the gospel, I have to live the gospel. And that means death. Death to self. When was the last casket you walked up to? I do a lot of funerals. When was the last casket you walked up to and started screaming and yelling at the person? I haven't done that, by the way. And how affected are they? No matter what I would say, no matter how I would insult them, how affected are they?
Not at all.
Not at all, because they're dead men. They're dead. And so...
Well, and I think that's the difference, because being dead to hurt can also mean being dead to joy.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. But I don't want to be dead in the sense of emotionally, in the sense of pastorally, in the sense of caring for people.
It just hit me because that's what Buddhism is really. I mean, I've mentioned it before that Buddhism is a teenager's religion, because it's basically someone gets hurt and it goes, well, I'm never going to be attached to anything again, and then I'll be free from hurt.
It's a cop-out. Look, okay, if somebody's an evangelist or a preacher, as you said, George, that's okay. But we have a call to be ministers of the gospel. That means we're servants of the gospel.
Well, but see, sometimes you don't know what it is if you haven't had an opportunity to see up close or have that, like, let's say someone that became an evangelist, maybe they weren't given opportunity to see what the pastorate really was like.
Yeah.
So they got in and they thought, oh, it's preaching. I can preach. And then they find out that it's getting hurt. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. For crying out loud, I think we take a lot of things for granted. We don't see what's behind. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
That's true, isn't it?
And there's a lot that's going on. And I feel the same. I was an assistant for 15 years here in this church, and I did not know. That's a pretty long time for an associate. I didn't really know all that was involved. And my predecessor, Pastor Sowell, he bore a lot of pain and suffering. And he's not an emotionally expressive man as far as how he is hurting and what's bothering him. He took it all on, and he had a heat sink the size of Mount Rushmore. I mean, he could send all of his pain and suffering somewhere. It wore him down over the years. Yeah. It wore him down. 40 years.
Me too.
You see it later on.
You're deep into Medicare at this point. To use a phrase that you said.
Yeah, I use the Medicare very, very liberally.
Amen. Hey, you're welcome.
We all have Medicare here, by the way, in Quebec. So,
but I think that you're right. And Brother George, what you're going through, in a sense, is what I'm going through. We're standing there going, is it worth it? Is it worth it to continue investing, knowing that it's going to hurt? And I think what your question is, George, is it's not only one part, it's two parts. Mm-hmm. Is it worth it? And even if it is worth it, is this necessarily what God has for me? If it's something that I cannot get through or cannot in my own, even walking close to the Lord, I mean, does a person get a choice whether or not they are a pastor or whether or not they are an evangelist? You know what I'm saying? Would that be a fair question, George?
Yeah. Well, yes, it would be.
As far as from your vantage point.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I can only speak for myself, and that is that I'm not going back. If everybody left, I mean, for me, this is how I process things. This is how I gauge my faith. And it's hypothetical. because I can say that this is how it works. If it really happened, would it be? But I have lived this.
Right.
When I got saved, I was the only one that was saved. Nobody in my family was saved. None of my friends were saved. My wife wanted to divorce me. I mean, so I have lived this. So I do have a bit of a platform to speak from. And that is if everyone you know, everyone that you know that's a believer, turned their back on Christ, what would you do? Because that's how strong your faith is today.
Don't go there, brother. Woo!
Yeah, no, really. And that's how I process things. And so I am by nature a tenacious person. I won't let go, and I won't give up. But that's my personality. So I can only answer based on me, but it is irrelevant to me. It's relevant in the sense of I don't want to be hurt. It's relevant in the sense as I don't want to lose any income. It's relevant in
I was just going to say that. It's funny you just mentioned that.
Yeah, it's relevant in the sense that I don't want to that I want to be successful because my enemies will get great joy out of my failures, you know, and I don't want that. And there's an element of pride involved. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to finish my course, and I'm just not going to give up. And so in that regard, it's all those things are irrelevant to me.
Yeah, you know your calling.
I know what my calling is. If everyone abandoned me, then and if I had to go to Walmart, John, I would make it a happier place. but it wouldn't matter. And here's why. Because I'm going to do what the Lord wants me to do and what he told me to do. And I have identified that, and I know what I'm supposed to do. And so if anything changes that's outside of any stupidity that I've done or sin or, you know, barring that kind of stuff, if the circumstances that are beyond my control changed things, then I know the Lord's in control.
And I think I do see one distinction. You were 29 when you got saved.
Yeah, it's 2 months shy of my 29th birthday.
I think a lot of the difficulties, the questioning, the double-mindedness that comes in our lives can be because it's just natural humanity, normal, natural. And so for you, when you really turned from darkness to light.
Very dark.
You know, you told me that when you told your mom.
Now be careful what you're saying if we're on the internet.
Well, your mom's response when you told her you were going into the ministry or to get saved, what was it?
No, it was you recounting the story. You mean?
Yeah.
My mom. So George, what happened with me is I got saved. I'm, you know, the common thing, and maybe it happened with you this way too. You're excited. You're telling everybody. You're not really gauging with intelligence, you know, and thinking, I should be careful how I'm saying this to my Catholic mother. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an insult to her and our whole heritage. You know, I'm a traitor now, you know, and I'm not being sensitive to that. And so I'm going to my parents' house. It's my birthday, and my mom, we have nothing but fights, you know, since I got saved, because I'm witnessing to them, and my wife is unsaved, and my wife says to me, "Stop, you know, you just need to stop this. You're alienating everyone from us," you know, it included her too.
Right.
And so, so my mom invites me over. She's got a gift for me. Is this what you're talking about? So she's got a gift for me, and and my wife is threatening me. She's threatening to take my child from me and to divorce me because she's unsaved. And we'd been married for 7 years at the time. And she threatens me and says, "Look," she says, "you're going over to your mom's house. You don't start any trouble with her." And I'm still even lost. I was the leader of my home. I mean, I'm not being browbeaten by my wife, but she's ticked, and she's telling me, "Be careful. And, you know, go over to your mom's. Don't say anything or whatever. Just get in and get out of there." That was good advice. And so I go to my parents' house, and it's uncomfortable, and my mom starts on me. And I'm like, I'm not responding. I'm not dealing with it. But then, you guys been in this situation where it goes too far and you're like, okay, well, we can't hear this anymore. So then I make my comments. And you guys are too young probably to know of a company called Fingerhut. Have you ever heard?
I remember Fingerhut.
Okay, George, it was a mail order company. I think they still exist. It's probably on the internet now, but it was a mail order company, and you could buy thousands and thousands of items from them. And one of the items my mom bought from them was a genuine hourglass, brass hourglass. And that was my birthday gift. Why? I don't know. But that was my birthday gift. It was a real, you flip it over, and my mom was intent on, look, watch, it'll last an hour, And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here for an hour now, I guess. So, but before I left the house, she had smashed that into a million pieces on my head. And I was bleeding profusely. And there was a lot of foul language and cursing. And it was during that time, I mentioned this last night, that my dad told me that I was never welcome on their property again. And that was one of those times when that I was trying to explain to you guys about that I've been to. I kind of have a right to say that hard thing about faith because I've been there. And faith that isn't tested is faith that really can't be trusted. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
And so, because I lived an intense life, that type of testing was required in my life. And so, so imagine going home and I can't stop the bleeding. And I'm not a good liar. So
she said you did it, didn't you?
So that created more problems, which leads into other stories.
You just had to say it.
Yeah. So she doctored me up and didn't speak to me, but my wife, that is. But at any rate, I do believe that, and I do believe that testing just comes. And God, we just look. You guys, you're younger than me, George. You look to be the youngest of the
triumvirate.
The triumvirate. I can't even pronounce the word. But honestly, George, I promise you, you're going to be okay. Just don't become apathetic, and you don't have to worry about answering that question. Really, you don't. You'll be all right. Just stay close to the Lord. And it will be okay. I that's what I meant when I first said you're not going to like this answer.
No, I get you.
Because you really will be okay. You don't really have to figure that out. Just walk with the Lord and keep fulfilling your call, and you're going to be fine. It's going to work out.
I like that comment, John. If you can put that on the screen there by Isaiah.
Yeah, that's a good
pretty
one.
Good. Yeah. You can't hug a man without exposing your back to be stabbed or your gut to be punched. And to be clear, I just want to reiterate, I'm not, those things happened, but I'm talking about good people. I'm talking about good people that are just maybe whatever. It could be an anodyne reason that walk away,
that's what I was responding to.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that the other ones.
Well, I'm saying this for the audience, so nobody thinks.
Oh, I see.
I'm saying that anyone in particular was evil because they walked away. That's.
Well,
some people get deceived by.
I'm the
whatever.
new guy on the podcast, so I kind of felt like it was just us talking. No, that's good.
Well, here we are. I think this is a good place to break. This again, Brother Tom Gang, and it's been a privilege to have you. If you are interested, next week, guys, don't worry. We're going to get back to our contemporary Christianity and talking about that. Took a break because we want to take advantage of Brother Gang being here for missions conference. But if you're interested in emailing us, you can do that. You can write to witsendguys@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you. It'd be great. Any parting words, George?
No, that was an unexpected blessing here today. So thank you guys. Thank you for Brother Tom for doing this. It's looking forward to meeting you someday in person.
I'd really like to meet you in person too, George, and likewise. It was a great blessing, and in spite of John being a troublemaker.
Mm-hmm. I do it very well.
You're really good at it.
I got to be, every man needs to be good at something. And well, we appreciate you guys listening. Hope it's a blessing and a help. I know it's a help to us. And by God's grace, we'll see you next time around.
God bless you guys.